Hello and welcome back to my garden. Today I'm going to start on the topiary garden. Now, I mentioned this briefly in another video before, and in case you were wondering, I'm standing here in front of my dahlias, which is part of the flower garden, but down by the yellow bucket over there, that's where I'm going to put the topiary garden. The topiary garden is going to be 30 feet wide, and it's going to be about, I don't know, I'll put the measurement here on the screen if I remember, and it will be surrounded by hedges. So I'm going to have in the front 4-foot tall hedging, and I don't know if I'll have any at the, let's call it the break between the topiary garden and what will eventually become the grass borders, which is another project that might come next year. But inside the topiary garden, I'm going to have just simple balls or boxes or cones. I'm not sure which. I'm going to go with a simple shape, and the reason being is maintenance and upkeep. I'm also not going to do any sort of fancy edging, nothing like that. It's just going to be very basic, very simple. Thought about what I could use to make all those topiary and the hedges in the front, and I thought one day as I was walking past, what about these lovely shrubs? Now, in case you're wondering, these are not box shrubs. No, this is Japanese holly. I accidentally planted Japanese holly here because I wanted a 4-foot tall hedge of boxwood. And I didn't know enough at the time, and I mistook these for boxwoods, and they're not really boxwoods, they're hollies, and they really look like boxwoods. The difference being is that if you look up really close, the edges of the leaves aren't smooth. They're not rounded smooth like a boxwood. And I could leave these here, but the problem being is that they do get quite massive. I have them in front of the house. In case you haven't seen those videos, go back and watch some of my front of house videos where I work on the garden beds there in front of the house, and you'll see the boxwoods in the back. And they do they grow quite large. I'm letting a couple get up to about 6 foot, and some of them are easily 4 to 5 feet across. They're quite large. So here I sort of planted them too close, again, thinking that they might have been boxwoods, but they weren't. They were hollies. The upside is these have already quite a few years of growth on them. So with all that being said, let me start digging. There's one out of the ground. I know all this looks like a hot mess, and you're probably thinking I'm insane, and what am I doing, and oh my God. This whole bed, this whole dahlia bed, as I've mentioned in a previous video, so if you haven't watched any of my previous videos, please go back and watch those previous videos, but this whole bed is coming out this year. I don't have to dig up my dahlias here in growing zone 8B. I just normally have to mulch over them just to keep them safe from frosts and freezes. So they're all going to be coming up this year, and it's because I want to redo this entire bed. There are things about this space that I don't like with the dahlias, and many of these dahlias have been in the ground for 3 years at least. So I'm going to dig them all up, divide what I can, and then replant in the late spring, early summer, once the dahlias all look like they're ready to go. So this whole bed is going to get turned over, basically. So once I dig the dahlias up out of the ground and I put them away, whatever is not turned over due to me naturally digging up the tubers, I will turn over with a shovel, and then I may wind up covering this whole area with weed fabric to suppress any and all weeds during the winter time. Let's go see which of the Japanese hollies I'm planting and where I'm planting them. Okay, so I am standing in what I like to refer to as the Grand Walkway because it's 20 feet wide, over 200 feet long. It's the sort of the center point, or the center of the garden itself. Behind you guys, I have the vegetable garden, I have the rose garden. You just saw where we were over by the flower garden, and this is going to be the topiary garden. Down by the street is where I'll have the grass borders, and I will touch on that more next year when I get ready to start working on that space. Here is going to be the front hedge. And so here's what I'm thinking for this space. Since it's 30 feet wide, what I'm thinking is we're going to do 10 feet off of the flower garden, have a 10-foot entrance, and then another 10 feet over to the end of the space, right? So again, 30 feet, so we're gonna have 10 foot of shrub, 10-foot opening, 10 foot of space. Inside, and if I remember, I'll put it maybe a drawing up because I do have a basic drawing of what the space is going to look like. I'm going to have anywhere from 6 to 8 shrubs, but I wanted to start creating this hedge here because it'll take some time for these guys to get settled and into the ground. It'll also solve the problem of me having these over in the dahlia garden because, again, they are the wrong plant for that spot. I wanted boxwoods in that spot, so that's fine. So I get to move them, plant these guys now while it's relatively cool yet warm enough that they should all be able to get a good rooting in, and it'll help define the grand walkway yet even more. So hopefully when I'm done, and when you look at this, you can then again see more of that definition. And if not this year, you'll definitely see it more next year as all of these plants that I've mentioned today just get that much bigger. So first things first, where's my 10-foot mark? Ha! All right, it's right there. Let's see, 10 feet. They could each grow to about 5 feet. I think I'm going to do them dense, so I'm going to do 3 on each side. The other thing I'm thinking or playing with at this point is maybe making the hedge 4 feet deep too. So that'll be, if it'll be 4 feet high and 4 feet deep, I should be able to reach in with the hedge trimmer just fine and trim both the front and then come around and do the back side without a problem. You'll also be able to see into the space, yet there'll be a clear definition of the space, and the front hedge itself becomes part of the topiary garden. So whatever I have inside, balls, spheres, cones, the outside hedge itself also becomes part of that display, let's call it. Maybe I'm not using the right word. If you guys can think of a better word, leave those comments below. I'm gonna move that one there, this one here, and I like that one there. So I think we'll do this one here, and this one's got good roots here, this one here. Okay, so I have a shovel at the 10-foot mark, a shovel at the 20-foot mark. Hopefully you guys can see the stake there down at the end. That's gonna be your 30-foot mark. And just beyond where the pail is your flower garden there. Again, hopefully you guys can see that. So we will have 3 here, 3 here, 10-foot opening. The other thing that I'm going to be doing is we will be going 10 feet basically wide right down the middle. So when I do plant out those other shrubs that'll be going in this space, they won't go into the middle. I'll be leaving an imaginary 10-foot walkway essentially right through the space. And they'll be sitting roughly-ish here because I'm going to leave approximately 4-foot space all around the hedge that's going to be over on the flower garden side, the hedge that'll be in the front, and each other. And this way I can drive the lawnmower around each of the plants themselves. This is what I'm thinking. This is what's going on in my head. So let me stop thinking and talking, and let me start digging. All right, so here we are at the first hole, and you guys can probably see right here, this is my dahlia bed, and eventually the plan is I'm gonna have Yupon planted right in here, and the plan is to go 2 feet in, 2 feet out over here, approximately. It may only be a 3-foot hedge. Still playing with those ideas, so maybe 1 foot there, 3 feet here, thereabouts. But the important part is there'll be a hedge right over here. Now something quite interesting happened, and maybe you guys can see this. Instead of growing down, it was mostly growing almost out, which is quite unusual because I know I'm pretty confident the boxwoods push down deeper than these hollies, and maybe it's only because, well, it might be because it's something that Japanese hollies do where they grow out in almost a fan shape, or they were just pursuing the healthiest soil because this was the edge that they were planted up against, and you could see how they didn't grow out this way, but they grew further into the dahlia bed. So they just might have been pursuing the healthiest soil. That being said, I'm going to, controversially, cut back some of these roots so we can fit it in the hole. If you think I'm making a huge mistake or I've just killed a plant, please let me know in those comments below. This looks like it'll fit. Yep. Put some compost in the hole. And then we're going to drop this bush in. Oh boy, we're making a mess here. So that's the first one. Let me plant up the rest. Well, I suffered some technical glitches there while making this video, so I don't know where we're going to wind up here. But there are the 3 hedges here, the 3 hedges here, and again, in the middle will be approximately a 10-foot opening, which will go straight back towards you guys. I was thinking about a couple of questions you may ask, so let me answer them real quick. The reason I didn't do no dig on these bushes was simply because we're getting into that winter season, and they're going to need every opportunity to get themselves into the ground. Today is just a mildly breezy day, but we can get winter wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. And that's no storms, that's just wind gusts during the winter time. It has happened before, it's crazy. By planting them into the ground, I'm ensuring that those roots get into contact with the ground quicker, because if I did the no dig, there's that layer of cardboard which has to break down first. That layer of cardboard, it will take longer during the winter time to break down than it will during the summertime. So if I did it in the springtime, by midsummer, all the cardboard's rotted away due to the heat and humidity, and the plant roots are burrowing into the ground, and life is good. Now we're going to be getting towards winter, and that cardboard will just last a little bit longer due to the cold temperatures. It won't break down as quickly. It will break down eventually, but not as quickly. So even hopefully these guys do make it through the winter, and hopefully do start putting on quite a bit of new growth next year. I have 3 leftover hollies. They will probably eventually go one on either side, and I'll do like one there, one there, one there. And again, I haven't figured out whether I'm going to do box or if I'm going to do cones or if I'm going to do spheres. I don't know the shape. If you guys have any thoughts or opinions on that, please leave those comments below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Click that bell icon to be notified of when I do post up a new video. This way you could follow along with what if these survive. If anything in my garden survives the winter, what will come up next spring, what won't come up next spring, what winter projects am I doing? I don't quite rightly know, but hopefully I can do quite a few big projects in my garden this winter. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure what those are going to be quite yet, so follow along, see what happens. If you'd be so kind, check out all the links below, and I think that's going to wrap it up for today. I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.